In this video we're going to try and find out why we've got a strange fuel problem on this V8 with a Holly carb. Right, it's 20 past 6 in the morning. I've already been out here an hour and a half tidying up jobs from yesterday and working out a problem on my own. I've got to get this car out today and moving. It's the 10th of November and I've got to get my winter tyres on my Yaris before December the 1st. Also, my Yaris ignition key is playing up. It sometimes won't turn, and once I see that happening, it's time to strip the lock out and find out what's going on with the ignition, because if the lock breaks and I'm in the middle of nowhere, no tools, I'm stuffed. So I've got a lot to do, and also hopefully maybe this weekend I've got Jim's car to shoot underneath with wax, because like I say, everything's backed up because of this bloody job here. It's been stuck. So the other day it's been starting, but all of a sudden it won't start when it's cold outside. Now this is kind of an interesting problem, because now it's inside here and it's 19 degrees in my shop. It's very intermittent. It sometimes starts, sometimes doesn't. But I think there's something wrong with the wiring for the relay. So what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to turn on the ignition and see if there's any fuel coming out of here. Alright, so I'm going to turn the ignition on. So there's the carb and there's the fuel feed here. Right, there it is. Look, sorry about that. There you go. So I'm going to turn the ignition on. I've got a spanner ready and I'm going to crack off the pipe. So let's turn the ignition on. There, ignition's on. No fuel. So what's going on? Well, I'm not really sure. So we'll put that on, turn the ignition off. That should be spewing fuel out. Next thing we're going to do is get the power probe and put the power probe onto the power wire going to the pump and do the same test again. Right, let's put that ground onto there. Now, I can hear instantly that pump's working. Just to prove it, so just to prove it, keep your eye on here, and I'm going to put some power down into the pump. See? So we know the pump's working. So it has to be a power feed problem from the ignition switch. Now I've already checked the relays out, but first of all, for safety's sake, let's click this back up again here, so we don't have fuel everywhere. I hate working on cars with petrol cars, especially inside the shop. You don't want the damn things catching on fire, because you never know, do you? Right, so now I've put the wire back into the harness, turn the ignition on and see what happens again. I don't know. I can't hear a pump running. Alright, so there's no pump running now. Is the ignition still on? No, but now it's on. I can hear the pump running now. So this should start. Oh, wait a minute, the oil light's off. Why is the oil light off? I can't fathom this out. Is it flooded? The pump's running, I can hear the pump running. And we've got fuel. Why won't it start? Ooh, it's got one of these thermostatic chokes on. I bet you it won't start because we've had the ignition on for too long. I've disconnected it. Let's see what happens. I don't like this idea. I really don't like this idea. I'm going to go and grab some breakfast. I'm going to let that electronic device on here cool down because it is kind of warm, and it's opened up the choke thinking it's going to start, but it isn't. It's already running, if you see what I mean. You know, it could. So let's talk about this, because on the early Rover V8s they used to have a sensor on the side of the oil pump that if it didn't have any oil pressure it used to cut the electric pump off. Now this is keeping running. There, it's just gone off. And the oil lights come on. Now, do you think it's a bad oil pressure switch? Yeah, because that's what it used to have. If you had no oil pressure, the engine wouldn't start. So when you crank it, you know, crank it over, then it built oil pressure up, and then the pump would start. Knowing that you had fuel in the carburetors from the last time you used it, enough to start it, which would then put the oil light out. I think it's something to do with the oil light itself. Now, where is it? Oh, it's our old friend down there. So, in theory, if I disconnect this, there's the pump started. It is that. Listen, I'll put the wire back on. Pump stops. Pump on, pump off. So, I've got a sneaking feeling it's a dodgy switch. And that's why it wouldn't start when it's cold, probably, because it's warm in here. Strange old world, isn't it? Arthur C. Clarke. I pulled half the dashboard out trying to find it. Checked all the relays with my relay tester. Here, you know, you just click it to a battery, put your relay in, press the button, and it'll test if your relay's working. But that's its problem. That's its problem. So, bit of breakfast, and then I'll change that switch. Right, refreshed after a bit of breakfast, and it's now 8 o'clock. Maybe I can explain a little bit better about this oil pressure switch here. Naturally, I haven't got one. It's a 1/2 inch NF thread, and I've got every switch except, well, I don't do much with V8s, but let me explain something to you, how this is working. So what we've got here is an oil pressure switch, and how it works is you've got power coming through your ignition switch. So when you turn your ignition switch on, power goes to the light in your dash, and then from there it grounds through here. So when there's no oil pressure, this is going from here to ground. Do you get it? Easy, isn't it? When oil pressure builds up, this switch opens and puts the light out. Isn't that easy? But they've used a twist with this V8 to say that if there's no oil pressure, then the pump will switch off. So therefore you're not going to burn your engine out because there's no oil in it. It's a good idea. And usually these things react very quickly. Now what's happening is this This is sort of working, but it's a very slow. I think it's all gummed up or whatever. So it's working through a relay, and here I've got a little, my relay tester. I showed you this earlier, but we'll zoom in, and we've got two types of relay. You can see the green lights on here because I haven't energized the switch. So this is a normally open, normally closed type of relay. So depending on which side you're going to get power, the light's going to go on. If I press the button, which will energize this relay, then the button, these two lights will flip over. See? It's like a flip-flop. You see? Apply power, and this one goes out and this one comes on. So what it's doing is, it's finding the ground, or it's finding the ground through the oil pressure switch. Good thing, bad thing, I don't know. But anyway, it's buggered us up. But at least now, if I put all my tools away and stuff like this and clear up a little bit, if I put the switch back in but disconnect it, because it's an easy job to do, it's only a 5-minute job, we should get this car to start, because this car's now cooled down. If I explained to you before that this little black unit on the side of here is like a bimetallic strip, and I disconnected the wire powering it up, so when the ignition's on, it will gradually open the flaps for the choke, and you can see now they're shut. The problem was why it wouldn't start was it wouldn't choke, because I had the ignition on, the flaps had opened, but there wasn't enough fuel to start the engine. So now, if I put the wire back on, get rid of all my toys, this should start with this switch in, but disconnected. Right, that's my tools out the way. I've got the battery on, I've reconnected the choke, the flaps are down, the wire's off the oil pressure switch, where hopefully we can hear the pump run. Yep, build up a bit of pressure, and would I lie to you? So that's all it was, bad oil pressure switch. You would never have thunk it, would you? Anyway, we'll get a new switch, and that's that fixed.